Second, it'll come up. It'll come up for Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. We're back in-house transportation. We're taking a tour around the state from Regional Planning Commission to Regional Planning Commission. We were in Addison County and then we headed up into, goodness, where do we go? We went to Washington County, went up to Franklin County. Now we're coming back to Lamoille County. And welcome this afternoon. I could go back through the whole speech of why you're here, but you've heard a couple of the presentations and we're interested in learning what you're up to and what the committee might need to do to help out. And sort of, it could go in a lot of different directions. We've been in 4 or 5 presentations in 4 or 5 different directions. So we appreciate you coming in. It's a little bit different for us, and I gathered it's a little different for you. So we're happy to have you, and whichever way you want to go first, and take it away.
So I'm Seth Jensen. I'm Deputy Director of the Lamoille County Planning Commission. We serve the 10 towns and 5 villages in Lamoille County. Our Regional Planning Commission boundaries also follow the county line. You're mostly going to be hearing from Alec Jones.
Is there a presentation that's going up or not?
I sent it to Gabriella.
Yeah, there's put it up if we can.
I don't know if we can. We're just checking that out. Let's see. No problem. Where's your office up in Lamoille?
We are on Portland Street in Morrisville, above, if you know, Morrisville, above where it used to be Kaplan's. We do the Vermont thing of identifying it by what it was, where it used to go. So, but we're right in the heart of the downtown.
Excellent. Representative Cook?
Laptops and everything else.
Yeah, I guess Gabby's gonna be the Vanna White. Flip the.
It's like.
I'm sorry.
I'm not kidding.
We don't know if it's supposed to be. We don't know if it's
She
supposed
might
to
not get the.
That's for everything.
Oh, that's true.
We are in the middle of the caveat.
It's like a young school.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. AV club. Remember when microfiche was gonna save everything?
Yeah, thank you. I am Alec Jones. I'm the transportation planner at Lamoille County Planning Commission. I'm just going to start with some background on Lamoille County. As Seth mentioned, we cover 10 towns, 5 villages, and we follow the county lines. We have just over 900 total road miles in Lamoille. 15% of those are state highway. Only another 15% of those are paved town roads, and the remaining 70% are all gravel town roads.
Wow.
And it's worth noting that nearly all of our roads are impacted by steep slope and or floodplain. We don't have any interstate highways, and the majority of our towns have very small road crews. Some don't have any full-time road crew staff, and most towns have very limited capacity for town staff.
Alec, you were a little nervous and it was new. You know, if I made a quiz, would you be able to name all 10 and 5?
Go for it. You have Eden, Belvedere, Waterville, Cambridge, Johnson, Hyde Park, Stowe, Morristown, Elmore, Wolcott. That's all 10, unless I missed Eden. And then the villages are Jeffersonville Village, Cambridge Village, Hyde Park Village, Morrisville Village, Wolcott. I don't know. No, Wolcott doesn't count as a village.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was 5 or not, but
Just Stowe Village in there?
they have their own
They-
municipality.
They've merged. They have an electric department that replaced the village about 10 years ago.
We have many other villages that don't have actual municipalities.
Yes.
So I can tell you that nobody else in here would have been able to name them all. So be confident you know what you're talking about.
We have a lot less than some of the other RPCs. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I'm just going to start with, our regional priorities. One of the biggest is that most of our villages are right on state highways. And that comes with a lot of complications with speed reduction or bike ped implementation. So that is what we're working through with many of our villages right now. Another big issue in our region is the congestion in Stowe Village and on BT 108. And then we do a lot of coordination with the public transit providers. We work with RCT and GMT, although GMT is transferring their Stowe service to RCT currently, so we will soon only have RCT in our region. We do a lot of the same stuff that you've heard from past RPCs with the data collection, the road erosion inventories, the traffic studies, the culvert inventories, all to help drive capital planning efforts in the county. One thing we're doing more and more often now is providing modeling, planning, and implementation of flood resiliency projects, especially after the 2023 and 24 floods. Another newer one, we're working with state partners to link transportation design standards to the Act 181 mapping that we're all going through right now. And then probably, the thing I do most in my day-to-day is working individually with each town and road foreman and town staff to both manage projects, apply for grants, and all the reporting and everything that goes with that.
You have a road foreman sort of meeting across the group like we heard from a few other places?
We do. It's been a little more sporadic than we'd like. The flooding really impacted the schedules of a lot of the road foremen. As I mentioned, a lot of our road crews are only a few guys. So it's hard to nail down a time to do that. We try to get 2 a year. It's been more like 1 a year for the past couple of years, but yeah. And then diving a little bit deeper into kind of our day-to-day work. Like I mentioned, collecting data for capital planning. We're also doing the road erosion inventories. We do sidewalk inventories and traffic studies. Something we've done a little newer is inventorying all the bus stop locations for the public transit providers in the county. We host regional committees and working groups like the Transportation Advisory Committee, and like you mentioned, the Road Foreman Network. We do a lot of coordination with the state, both on the LVRT and other projects, either on the state highway or near the state highway. Coordinating with V-Trans districts, we do have 2 district offices in our region, so we work with District 6 and District 8. So we work with them primarily on grant applications is what we get from them, and we assist towns with. And then a big part that Seth will talk about in a little bit is coordination with the Smugglers Notch Partners, which is obviously the 108 corridor. So that has a state element as well as a regional and local element. Then, as I mentioned, we work directly with the road foreman, very constantly. We do site visits for grant applications. We help them prioritize projects and pick projects for annual grants and projects like that.
You had mentioned you have used inventory plus scouts or so. For these 10 towns that you talked of.
Yeah, so the bus stops only are in the region where we have public transit, which is mostly, it was mostly Stowe, Morristown, and then I think occasionally into Cambridge and Johnson, but
Okay.
I think that route's been trimmed.
Okay.
So the majority, like I said, is on 108 in Stowe.
Okay.
But yeah, we looked at, what they had, whether it's just a sign or a shelter and the condition of all those things.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I'll ask the same question to you. Do you feel like you have involvement in the state grants, municipal grants, bridges, structure grants? Have involvement when V-Trans is looking them over and, they ask you which ones do you think have priority, or do you fill out the application, give it to them, and then out comes which municipalities might get grants?
Yeah, we don't have any say in the selection of projects. I'll say we definitely go to bat for our towns in writing the applications, and whether it's the planning team that we work with at V-Trans that, we keep them filled in on the projects we're applying for. And, but no, ultimately we have no say in the selection of grants.
Does it feel like, obviously there's limited money, does it feel like the grants that do come through seem to be the right projects?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, I'd say it is difficult. There's a couple grants that if you've gotten one in the past 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
they just kind of brush you away.
Yes,
Which makes things difficult, and a lot of towns get discouraged putting the work in to choose a project to submit, just to be told no because you had one 2 years ago.
yeah.
So that, I'd say that's a big difficulty in our region.
Okay. That means-
Very much.
Yeah, we can go next slide. Yeah, so for public transit, like I mentioned, we work with both RCT and GMT on public transit planning. We were involved in the RCT's, I guess it's just their transit plan that they updated a couple of years ago or last year. We participate in both board of directors meetings for those two entities. We're helping coordinate the transfer of a rural service from GMT to RCT for the Stowe Mountain Road. We co-host the O&D committee with NVDA. And as I mentioned, we inventory the bus stops for both RCT and GMT. I'd imagine we'll have to do those again soon, but with the transfer, but something we've done in the past.
So another area that we are very involved in the region is flood resiliency planning as it relates to the transportation network. So for some background, 3 of the 5 largest floods on record in Lamoille County have occurred in 2023 and 2024. Prior to that, we also had major floods with the Halloween storm, flooding in 2014, as well as 3 floods, Tropical Storm Irene and 2 spring floods in 2011. So those, as you heard from Christian in Washington County, had significant impact on our transportation network as well. Work we are doing to assist communities. We continue to assist communities in securing grants for stormwater practices along the town roadways. Those kinds of practices help to make the roadway more resilient and more likely to hold up in a major event. We also, because of the geography of the region, where we have sort of steep valley walls with rivers in between, many road segments are in the floodplain and vulnerable to flooding. Since the 2011 flooding, the Lamoille County Planning Commission has been working with our communities to build out a hydraulic model of the Lamoille main stem and key tributaries, and recently worked with funding from the US EDA to extend that into the headwaters in Hardwick and down into Fairfax and Georgia up to the confluence with Lake Arrowhead. And with that, it is now the longest publicly available hydraulic model east of the Mississippi, at least that we are aware of. You see behind me is a picture of Route 15 in Jeffersonville during the July 2023 flood. What we've been able to do with that tool is work with our towns and VTrans to explore options both to protect the highway network and also in areas where there may be an undersized bridge or an element of the transportation network like a berm that is creating backflow issues, to plan out and implement projects that reduce flooding in our communities. So in Jeffersonville, following the 2011 floods, we were able to work on 2 major mitigation projects that in total reduced flood levels in the village by about 1.5 feet. We, with that modeling, have a potential follow-up work that would further reduce flooding to where, in a storm similar to the July 23 floods, the senior housing that was evacuated would be protected. We also, in other villages like Johnson, have a slew of alternatives that have the potential to reduce flooding by about 3 feet.
Representative Burke, a question, Burke?
Do you have the opportunity to develop any floodplains?
Yes, that's a really good question. Those projects in Johnson, particularly, The modeling identified a host of floodplain restoration projects. Because of Johnson's location at the confluence in the backwater, that's a big part of the issue. We're actually just finishing up a ARPA-funded floodplain restoration project at what's called the Holmes Meadow. That's at the bend of the river near 15, and will help with ice jamming, and also, you know, restore some of the natural functions. So we're really looking forwad to continuing to work with V-Trans and the towns on projects like that.
Look, I live in Brattleboro and we had two floodplains now
Mhm.
developed, and the most recent one is it's just wonderful. It's this particular place that they were able to remove a berm that
Yes.
created the problems during tropical storm and rain, and it's now all finished, and it's like a park, and it's really been a wonderful addition. And then one that happened upstream, the Whetstone, was senior housing there.
Yeah.
Moved out of the Palms Way anyway.
Yeah, it's very, you know, exciting, some of these where you know, a former vulnerability is now becoming a public space that adds value to the community in the 90% of the time when the river isn't flooding. So there's some great
Yeah,
opportunities.
we've had some events, some of the floodlands.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you work with any sort of local nonprofit organizations that do wetland restoration and all that? I mean, I'm thinking in our area, we have Lewis Creek Association, they're well known. And they've gone through and, you know, do small projects, look to conserve land that's needs to be restored as a wetland. And they've done a lot with some support from the municipality here or there, or landowners and stuff. Do you have an organization like that?
Yes, we work really closely with the Lamoille County Conservation District. Sometimes we even do projects kind of in partnership with each other, where LCPC might help the town secure FEMA funding or other large grant funding to do some of the earthwork and you know, site creation, and then the conservation district has resources to bring in volunteers and resources to do revegetation and plant. And we actually have had opportunities to work with the Department of Fish and Wildlife as well.
Did the same in Heinsberg, yeah.
So there've been some really successful projects in Wolcott, with a partnership with both Fish and Wildlife and the Conservation District. And there's another one potentially going out to bid for the upcoming building season in Jefferson. So those partnerships are really, really critical.
Yeah.
So that's some of our work down in the valleys. We also do work up in the mountain. Lamoille County is home to Smuggler's Notch, Route 108 through Smuggler's Notch. And LCPC got involved with project planning back in the 90s. There was a highway project that was proposed to straighten the knot, remove some of the boulders that are between the notch, and add interstate style guardrail and other signage and such. And there was a great amount of public outcry about those plans in the towns of Cambridge and Stowe. So V-Trans at that time brought in LCPC to organize a public process that led to a corridor management plan, and has continued to this day with monthly meetings for partners that include the Agency of Transportation, Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation. The corridor has become part of a state park. The Green Mountain Club, who manages the Long Trail through the area, as well as the ski resorts on either end of the mountain. So this summer, the very last piece of the corridor management plan that was drafted, I think in 1999, was implemented, which included addressing some of the bootleg parking along the edge of the road and replacing it with new parking areas with proper modern stormwater drainage, better access management, and also critically replanting the areas that have been impacted over the years with vegetation. And that was specifically selected for the alpine environment. We actually worked with VTrans ecology team as well as the state parks vegetation people and some folks from our private engineering team to come up with a specialized planting mix specifically for mountain environments that was used there. That was largely a success except for the incident of someone stealing some of those plants in the middle of the night. There were large truck tracks and shovel holes, but those have all been replanted. But that's always the surprises that come. You all are also probably familiar with the above picture of the annual issue of trucks trying to navigate the notch and becoming stuck. We now have a word for that, of stuckage, that I hope gets into Webster's someday. LCPC has been working with VTrans on a pilot project to test chicanes on either end of the notch. That we have the second year of that pilot project, and now investigating what options might be for that in the long term. And finally, major piece of implementing the corridor management plan has been trying to shift visitor activity from kind of randomly occurring to key nodes in the notch to increase safety. And one of those key areas is the Barnes Camp Visitor Center, which is a historic lodge at the base of the notch. We also worked with Forest and Parks to implement accessible boardwalk, which at the time was the first accessible segment of the Long Trail, and to also enhance pedestrian safety in that element of the corridor with a marked crosswalk and signalized pedestrian signage. So we will continue to work on those, and very happy that the plan that started in 1999 was finally completed in 2025. Just in time to update it and start again.
All those parking lots along there, they gonna call it road parking. Do you think it's gonna cut it down? I know it was quite a lot of work up there.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. When we entered this effort, the feasibility study for the parking project was completed in 2014, which doesn't feel as long ago as it was. But the goal is, there was a recognition that on the peak days, there's just more people who want to be in the notch than can, be accommodated with formal parking areas. So the goal of the project was, to the greatest degree possible, reduce the illicit parking on kind of the normal use, with the recognition that long-term other measures are going to be needed to really manage parking. This is not a near-term option, but all of the lots were designed so they could accommodate, for example, like a small short bus or shuttle, if that was ever explored by state parks. It has reduced some of the illicit parking. One of the lots particularly seems to have low utilization because the trail still needs to be rerouted, Hellbrook Trail. And if you're not experienced hikers, don't go up Culver Trail. It has that name for a reason. But it also, if you want to picnic and the Notch is busy, there are some great boulders that haven't been fully explored that give a view of the Notch. And we are trying to shift activity away from the most, sensitive and challenging areas of the Notch to that.
Then sticking in Stowe.
Rosenberg?
And I just wanted to ask about the notch. Did we have one stoppage this summer? Was it?
There was a stoppage.
Yeah.
So the chicanes have largely been successful, but there is the challenge of human behavior that people have figured out that the way to avoid them is by going into the other travel lane or through the Burns Camp parking lot. And so if that moves forward to a more permanent installation, figuring out how to discourage that further is going to be important, especially the going into the Burns Camp parking lot, because that's where, you have people unloading and loading to go to the visitor center and the boardwalk, and trying to create an accessible facility that serves sensitive populations, and then having the introduction of trucks trying to avoid the traffic safety measures, kind of an issue we're going to have to look at.
Is there some bill that we're increasing the fines?
That one of the recommendations has been to increase the fines. Yeah.
So another piece of Stowe is the Stowe congestion study that they just completed their draft this past year. LCPC wasn't directly involved in this study, but given the major economic and job center that Stowe is for the region, it's of interest of us and all the surrounding towns. And so basically Stowe consulted with a firm to have this study done to provide alternatives for traffic, trying to fix the traffic congestion in villages and on 108. The picture on the screen is from that study showing all the alternate routes that people will take from north up to the mountain resort, given the congestion. And some of them are a lot longer than they should be. And so basically this study provided many long-term and short-term intersection improvements, parking management solutions, and even offering options of alternate routes to and from the Stowe Resort. A common phrase in Stowe is that in the winter, there's a small city at the end of a dead-end state highway. And so that poses many, emergency issues and congestion issues if culverts blow out or there's other issues on 108.
So we also wanted to.
I'm not sure how long the bus has been operating in the winter. I guess maybe even more, but have your studies shown that the traffic our vehicle traffic has gone down because of the bus, or I don't know?
Yeah, so the resort also did a paid parking program, I think, in the last 2 years, and I think the results have shown that that's impacted it positively. The issue becomes that the bus route only goes through kind of Main Street in Stowe, and the availability of parking even on Main Street and where you can walk to in Stowe is very limited. So it's helping, but there's only so much it can help.
Having to get on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, finding parking down in the village to get on the bus. Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're cutting into the next group's time, so we'll
Okay.
have to be close here.
So we did want to just highlight a project in the region. And this is to highlight the project because I know you often hear from people when there are problems. We wanted to highlight a success and a success of V-Trans, working with the towns and the regional planning commissions to address several ongoing issues. So the Wolcott School Street Bridge is a bridge located in the middle of Wolcott's Village Center. It connects School Street to Route 15, which is functionally Wolcott's Main Street. And because of the geography and topography, it's also one of only two ways for the Highway Department and Fire Department to access the portions of the town located north of the Memorial River. The bridge was closed, and there's been a temporary bridge in place for the last 7 years. So V-Trans has been working through the design process with groundbreaking this fall. As part of that, V-Trans reviewed the modeling data that we shared about earlier, and actually adjusted the bridge span to reduce flooding on School Street. School Street was one of the areas of Wolcott that was really severely impacted by the 2023 floods. It's where there've been a lot of buyouts. And our follow-up modeling has shown the new span will have measurable reductions in the flood risk to the remaining homes on that. So that was a really good cooperative effort to address the flooding issues. Wolcott has also been working on developing a wastewater system for the village, pending some remaining permitting. That system, it should be going out for construction this year. And V-Trans worked with the town to coordinate the design of the bridge with the design of the wastewater system to accommodate the crossing of the force mains. That also involved coordinating the different permitting and funding rules for Federal Highway, which is funding the bridge, and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, funding the wastewater system, and finding ways to make those different pools of federal money play together in a functional way. And then finally, the bridge is being designed with a widened shoulder to accommodate pedestrian connectivity between School Street and Wolcott Main Street. That's been a significant ongoing concern from residents of Wolcott. So we wanted to highlight this because it is just a good success story about planning at all of the levels working together to get a good outcome for Vermonters.
This last one.
Okay. Well, and some of your neighbors down at that end have heard all they want to hear about the LVRT.
So very similar to what you guys heard from Northwestern, we do a lot of the same work for the LVRT, hosting committees, coordinating with V-Trans on mapping and culvert inventories. And I'll just, I think the biggest thing to take away for our work on the LVRT is really working with our towns to get grant funding and implement trailhead projects. I think we've done a few in the last 10 years that have been really successful. So taking connections to the LVRT that were kind of lost and unknown, and making them a place where people recognize where they are and what's around them.
Thank you very much. We had quite a few questions as we went. So maybe we'll be in the communication of the other part. We want to know what people's opinions are about how hard it is to change speed limits in your areas and when you work with municipalities there. There's been discussions about whether or not there was the grant program or municipal water program. Should they become easier to get? There was reports on that last time. So those are other pieces that perhaps this will start the dialogue on some of the other parts of the agency policy that we deal with. So I really appreciate you coming in. I hope it wasn't as nervous or as bad as you thought it might be. And appreciate the chance to give you that opportunity. So is there anything you want to close with? All right.
Just on that question about the speed limits, I'll just share that when we were doing the future land use map updates, more communities asked about whether the village center areas would have greater ability to reduce speed limits than asked about the Act 250 exemptions. So the degree to which the speed limit, informed by science, could also give some communities more ability to do that, would help our rural towns.
So you're saying in your activity associated with the Act 250, Act 73?
181, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's the education.
Yeah.
Careful.
It's stuck.
That's way out of our jurisdiction.
As you're going into communities and whatnot and like working through this process, you said you got a lot of people just saying, hey, will this allow us to reduce speeds?
Yes.
Interesting. And you said, no, this,
Well, we said we hoped that
okay.
it might lead there, but.
We're working on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like a universal request.
If I may, Mr. Chair. I think it's interesting that that was the more important criteria than even some of the other concerns about how the tiers would apply and what that would import for land use opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, let's take reach out. Jason, I don't know, you've been here before. Actually, you know what? I'm not sure that Otis was familiar looking as well, but please come on up. We don't want to shortchange you out much time. We appreciate you guys all being here.
We'll be brief.
Thank you. We are, I don't know if you heard earlier, but we were trying to, there used to be an RPC day, I guess, pre my time, and we get the majority of our feedback perhaps from the agency, and we're looking for feedback of what's going on around the state, and we've been from while you're getting set up, and I don't know if you have a presentation to put up or not, or we're just.
a few slides, yeah.
Well, we'll get that while we're going. Don't hesitate, keep working on that and trying to get other views on people that are working in transportation on a regular basis and trying to get feedback and trying to make perhaps some people feel more comfortable to reach out to their transportation committee members and establish a few relationships, as well as see what themes have come through and whatnot. So we're happy to have you take it in a lot of different directions. I had originally thought we'd talk a lot about TAC meetings and whatnot, but of course, we're not accepting, agents not really looking for any new feedback on projects. But there seems to have taken us into a number of other directions that are pretty consistent, whether you were in Addison or Franklin or
Jim.
we didn't get Chittenden,
No,
but we did get
Lamoille.
Lamoille, and we did get Washington and a little bit of Orange. And now we've been to Bennington. And now we're on the other side, on the east side of Mount Escutney. And so I'm not sure if I stalled enough time for you to get to your presentation. But if you want to start with comments on how hard it is to change speed limits, whether it's a workable process or should be different. If you want to make a comment on, we've heard about the bill last year on cancellations of projects. That was an issue last year, but still maybe didn't get settled yet. Issues of relating to simplifying the grant process for towns was part of the T-bill request last year. So you can pick a wide range of topics wherever you want to start.
Anything.
We'll
Right.
stall for Otis. And welcome to committee, introduce yourselves and take it whenever you're ready.
So I'm Jason Rasmussen. I'm Executive Director at Mount Escutney Regional Commission. I also serve as the chair of VAPTA's Transportation Committee. So I think some of you have seen me before in that role. Happy to be here in the best committee around, apparently, according to the chalkboard behind your head. That's right. Otis, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Otis Selms Monroe. I'm the transportation planner at the Mount Scutney Regional Commission.
So I've been doing this for a long time, 26 or so years plus. And I remember way back when, at the beginning of my career, all of us would come to the House Transportation Committee to talk about our transportation programs, and it got really boring. So I don't want to get into you've heard all this stuff before. So we may blow through a few things real quick, hit some highlights, but I'd love more than anything to just have some questions and answers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, do you have a committee member from down in your area? I don't believe.
No.
you do.
Senate Transportation Committee does, but no members.
Representative Burke has to go past your area to get to her area.
We're close. So, I'll just start and then we're a well-oiled machine here, so.
Sorry to interrupt. If members need to leave to go to the floor, or want to just go ahead, gonna stick around to hear everything that you gotta say. But you guys obviously gotta go if you gotta go, so.
Thanks for having us here. Again, I'm really more interested in answering some questions and answers, and we can hit on some of those topics that you talked about. We're a pretty small region. We serve 10 towns in southern Windsor County. And I'm not so sure about what you've been hearing from others, but our transportation program is broader than just the Transportation Planning Initiative. So we're going to try to talk a little bit about some of those details, how it plays into some of our other programs, talk about some of what we're doing and what we're trying to do. But I think, fundamentally, the transportation program in Vermont changed substantially in the early 90s. And there was federal, ICE-T was the transportation bill at that time. And at that point, the transportation program in the state really grew to more or less what it is today. And it's really great. It's probably my favorite relationship with a state agency through this program. We really have a really good, generally good working relationship with the agency, and it's great. And our focus is really like local technical assistance. And so, the TPI program and our transportation program in general just really helps us help our towns. And we've certainly heard an awful lot about municipal capacity or lack thereof. And, we certainly find ourselves too much helping them out. They really rely on us for a lot of this stuff. And this program really allows us to do that. Next thing. Maybe you've seen this before. We're one of 11 regional planning commissions. We're down in the southeastern part of the state. Again, we're a small region. We have 10 towns. I think as a result of that, we work probably a lot more closely with our towns than if you have, 27 or 47 or whatever towns. We really kind of get into the weeds with them, I think, which is, as far as I'm concerned, it's great. Some of these numbers are statewide numbers. There's 11 RPCs. We have roughly 135 employees throughout all of, if you add us all up. We're updating our Act 181, or for Act 181, we're updating our regional plans. And I think there's a really, Seth was talking about that a little bit. I think there's a very interesting opportunity with our regional plans to dovetail with what's going to be the new Vermont multimodal roadway guidance. And I think we have a really strong opportunity to illuminate what we want our roads to be in which parts of town. And I think, one of the things Act 181 was envisioning was complete streets in our village centers. And I think we'll have the multimodal roadway guidance is more of like a menu of options. But we're able, I think, through our town plans and our regional plan, I think we're going to try to give it some meat. So this is what we want. And hopefully those two will work together. Obviously, the guidance is still a work in progress, but that's what I'm hoping for. And I guess the point on the screen was that through the regional planning process, we're doing a lot of outreach. There's been more than 750 different events and more, and counting. And we're really trying to work very closely with our communities to make sure that piece is right and all the other pieces in our regional plans are right. Another point I just highlight is that through our transportation program, collectively, all of the RPCs have really brought in a lot of money. 30 million each year in federal funds were brought into the states. So again, these contracts that we have with the agency, in this case, transportation, are really helpful. It allows us to leverage federal funds. To the next one. Do you want to talk about anything? Well, I'll take this one. You take next.
Sounds good.
So again, these are statewide numbers. Over the last year, we worked collectively with 215 towns. And again, that's the primary focus of our efforts. We're really there to help our towns through this stuff. It's anything from traffic counts to road erosion inventories to helping them with their mileage certificates to, anything in between. We get a lot of different calls. Different towns want help with different things, but mostly we're helping them soup to nuts. Okay, so I guess the bottom highlight, so we do other things other than what is in our TPI program. We go out and seek additional funds from other places. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Yeah, close to, I think maybe 3 years ago now.
Otis left us briefly, came back. Before he left, he got a federal grant that allowed us to do the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Allowed us to create this comprehensive highway safety plan for the region. The whole impetus for the project was to help towns create the plan that would make them eligible for federal implementation. That was the whole idea. So I think there's the next slide is some details. I'm not going to talk about that, but that's just sort of a part of that plan was really when it is a data-driven plan. At the end of the day, we have a bunch of safety projects that we want to do. There's not a lot of money in the state, so we're trying to diversify and make ourselves eligible for federal funds. That's the bottom line, and that was a great project for that purpose. Do you want to add anything?
All I'd add is the plan basically identifies corridors both on state and town highways within the region where safety improvements would make progress towards our goal, at least of Vision Zero goal, zero deaths and serious injuries. And so highlight identifies locations and countermeasures, things like center line, rumble strips, guardrail, signage, clear zone, clearing kind of thing. So hoping then to move into this plan was just adopted by our board a month or two ago, and it's either November or December. And so looking forward to the next step of leveraging some of that funding that opens up to implement some of the projects.
So I may gloss over this a little bit. I think you
Generally,
generally
I haven't heard that anywhere else, I don't believe, but leveraging directly to federal funds as opposed to through the agencies. That's interesting. So,
It's, one of the things we see money's not grown on trees. It's hard to fund new projects. So we're trying to be creative. That's basically what we're trying to do. So I don't want to go into too much detail here, but this transportation planning initiative is sort of our core funding for our transportation program. It's really, we are here to help VTrans to coordinate with our towns and get public participation in the state transportation planning process. That's sort of the main crux of it. And we have these 5 main objectives, and we kind of gloss over them. But if you have questions, we can go into that in a little more detail. And just at the bottom of the screen are just some highlights last year. These are some of our statistics, in terms of what we're able to do. And we're a pretty small region, so the numbers might not look large, but we work with all of our towns and we really try to do the best we can to support. That's really the bottom line. So do you want to chime in
Pretty
here?
straightforward here, just reintroduce our region a little bit, the transportation network there. As anywhere else in the state, especially the more rural parts such as ours, the road network is really the primary transportation network in the region. We have Interstate 91 as a major north-south corridor, and then several important state highways that connect east to west as well. So just a quick orientation geographically, transportation network for the region. Is there anything you want to say on this one?
Yeah, and I think we failed to include pictures of our flooding issues. But Seth was talking about that earlier, and we certainly have our share. They've had a tough time up there. Certainly, Ludlow and Cavendish, Chester in our neck of the woods have as well, unfortunately. And so a large part of what we're doing mostly outside of TPI is we're trying to deal with that. There's no emergency planning money right now. And we're trying to be creative to still address those concerns of our towns. We have Cavendish and Ludlow wanted to work together with us on the Black River flood resilience study. And we just made it happen. We got a little MTAP money. We got a little money from each town. We chipped in some of our money. And so coming out of that is It's not transportation specific, but a lot of the projects that are coming out of that are transportation projects. And so we're basically doing project development to tee up these things for a future grant application. We spend a lot of our time with our towns doing grant applications, project management, that sort of thing. We're really trying to be pushing flood resilience.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, a couple of years ago, we did a brief, quick study on Route 5 as a bike corridor. And we got a lot of input, I think positive input. I'm not sure if you participated in a couple of meetings, I guess, discussions. So any, anything come from that? Like when you're talking with plans on Route 5, does it come up at all that, hey, this is sort of a stretch goal, long-term goal, when planning intersections and things like that?
Yes, I'd say generally speaking, yes, not as much as I would like it to be. I think the outreach along the entire Route 5 corridor was very positive. Yes, it sounds great, but then, oh my God, how are we going to pay for it? Essentially was the result, right? And in our region, we've been looking at it in a little more detail. There are some concepts about a possible path on the northern section in Windsor, for example, that would get you off of some of the more dangerous curves and whatever. And we've been talking, but for the most part, we just need wider shoulders is really what we came to the conclusion.
That most of the roads would be pretty safe with wider shoulders. Yeah.
Right. We would love a bike path, but it just doesn't seem very feasible.
Right.
So there may be a short section where maybe we could do that. And so, we're really just trying to lay the groundwork when there's a future paving project, we eke out a little bit extra. If there's an actual roadway project, there's concrete slabs and there's other things under there that make it a challenge. But do what we can do to make it as safe as we can make it. There really were not many alternative routes that make sense. So we're really looking at wider shoulders.
The highlight here, obviously, we want to touch on the various other modes that are present in the region. The real point here is we're fortunate to have two of the state's microtransit pilots in our region. Both of those, we hear very positive feedback. The one in Windsor has been running for a few years now, and then the one in Springfield just started in November, but we're already hearing very positive results from both of those, and both already popular services in those communities. So we're definitely worth mentioning there.
And I just add on the Springfield one, our friends at the Springfield Regional Development Corporation, the transit company, worked together to get a Northern Borders grant to make that happen. So that had to be a little more creative to make that happen.
You have funding to continue, because we had a in Brattleboro that had to stop because of the funding.
Yeah. I serve on the transit board, and that was a big concern of mine in Brattleboro. That was unfortunate. We have money for 3 years, and this really is replacing what used to be their in-town route.
Okay, that's what I was wondering too. Is it,
So we hope that it's sustainable.
Good. Yeah, the one in Brattleboro was really an extra.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. Sure.
Jason touched on this already quite a bit. I'm sure it's something we've heard a lot so far. Heard Seth talking a little bit about this in his presentation before us. But a lot of what we do through the transportation program and across the board is assisting our towns with both grant applications and then project management once they've received those funds. Especially again in a sort of smaller region or smaller towns, they really rely on us and our experience managing, especially state and federal funds and the requirements there. And so just a couple quick examples here, but a number of projects bringing in federal and state. This is often applying state programs that have been pushing federal funds down to the towns, but allowing our towns to take advantage of a lot of opportunities and complete projects. A lot of culvert and bridge replacements and bicycle and pedestrian improvements are very popular projects that otherwise would be a challenge for our towns to take on their own. So it's very rewarding work and something we're very, very fortunate to be able to do.
I'm gonna sort of a segue, but the picture of the stone lined ditches, you know, we do a lot of work right now on road erosion inventories, helping towns with grants and aid and so forth. And it's great and it's effective and it is helping some of our stormwater issues. It's holding up better and so like in general, this is all good. But one of the things I notice is that we were doing a lot of capital planning with our towns before the MRGP came around. And now it's almost taken up all the air in the room. And again, it's an important thing, but I really want to get back to doing more transportation capital planning with towns. I think it's really important with the Act 181 piece, because we don't have as robust of a sidewalk network as we really need to grow the housing that we need and so forth. So that's an area where how we do it, because we're kind of like maxed out to deal with all the road erosion inventory type work, but we need to get to that point.
It's clearly a theme we've heard.
Yeah, have you?
All
Yeah.
the planning commissions.
Okay. Yep, you've heard that one before. All right, good. And then, you know, I think the image on the bottom is an example of two things. We love the Better Connections grant. It's a fantastic program. We have had 5 projects in our little region. We think it's great. It really helps to tie in the land use and the transportation stuff together. And that's that kind of informs the Act 181 work to some extent. And then it's formed a lot of our grant writing and our project management work over the last few years. So that's an example of one of those in downtown Springfield.
Representative Loudon.
Thank you. One of the questions I have about the Better Connections is it seems like it's another example of we can't quite meet the demand there for this. And my understanding is that they decided to go to sort of do like a deeper dive in each community, which sounds very beneficial, but it also means that I think it's like 1 or 2 communities get this a year versus a few more. And I was wondering if the RPC with the multimodal, with the Act 181, if we're getting clear about this, if you see the potential for kind of moving this along a little bit, streamlining it, making it a little less bespoke, but also maintaining that quality so that more communities get a bite of the apple and get in line for funding that we don't have. But maybe if we build housing in different places, we'll have more taxpayers and maybe we'll housing. So anyway, it's all.
It's not you.
Yeah.
The floor starts at 3:30, so it's not your.
Yeah, you know, the staff for that program are pretty new, and I think they're looking at reevaluating and things. So I think I'm also on that review committee. So, you know, if we can do things differently next year, I'm open to that. The funding that we get as a small region is kind of small. Like I don't have a lot of extra money to throw at something like this. Some of my colleagues do, and I think the more we can do that's Better Connections light or something, I think would be great. And I'm definitely open to that conversation.
Great. I mean, even maybe like just saying this would be to take the temperature in your community for this, and then you know, okay, you get in line for another opportunity, but at least start. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you don't need the full blown thing, but you know, you just have some facilitation and some nice graphics that illustrate options, and that's our preferred option. That maybe that goes a long way.
It's more targeted, strategic, and then
And we're
work
targeting.
from there. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful to understand.
There was 7 applications this year, and maybe only 2 got funded, if I'm remembering right. So there's a lot of demand.
Yeah.
think we're getting close to the end. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll be quick here. I'm sure this is something you've heard before as well. This is something that all the RPCs really have a large hand in is the regional coordination on transportation issues, whether that's road foreman meetings and gathering all the road foremen together twice a year, have so many shared issues and concerns that really benefit from talking about together. And then it's, no point in listing all the various regional boards and committees that are transportation related that either we sit on or have an active role in organizing, but just wanted to highlight that as a large part of what we do as well. I don't know if there's anything in particular you wanted to make that work there.
Yeah, one thing I'd highlight is VAPTA, being that I'm the transportation chair. Myself and Devin, who's VAPTA's chair, are on the Vermont Multimodal Roadway Guidance Advisory Committee. And that's been really great to be in the room. We're the only non-agency person, that the last few months that's been involved. It's fantastic. I think they're doing a good job. And I'm really looking forward to the next phase where there's going to be more eyeballs on it. I think we need more eyeballs on it. But they're doing a nice job.
Can I ask, is like locomotion involved or
We're involved in the third, we had a pretty robust steering committee first phase where they were sort of developing a very detailed outline, and that was great. Locomotion was there. There were some truck folks and all kinds of great input, but it kind of trailed off the last few months. And again, we're thrilled to be at the table. And I do think they're doing a nice job. I would like to see more a broad, diverse group reviewing it. And I think that is the plan, but I just want to highlight that I think it would be great to get more eyes on this draft.
I would move up to the teaser we're talking about the other day.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about special projects. We're almost done here.
All right.
But again, we do some other things where, we carve out a little money here and there to do something like this. So maybe 6 or so years ago, we developed a bike map and guidance. And the whole idea was to encourage people to come. We got a bunch of great gravel roads to ride on. Come on down to Southern Windsor County, ride your bike. And where do I go? And so, we had this process. The first phase of it, we printed these nice big maps, but we sort of segued into a digital only format for good or bad. But they're on Strava and some of these other portals where you can download the stuff. And we had great feedback. So who knows what kind of impact we're making, but it's good. It's a fun little project.
code you put out and hold your phone.
Yeah. So we have more like display, like a display from at bike shops and whatever, so people can click on the URL and go check it out. Yeah, so we try to do things like that. And talked about the Black River resilience thing. And I think one of the bigger things is flood resilience in our future land use stuff. I think those are some biggies for us.
Again, Act 181 and the multimodal and, sort of right place, right approach. Stormwater seems a huge opportunity. Obviously, you'll need to put the box culverts in and stuff out in a lot of, places that are vulnerable. But within our communities, there's the Green Streets manual that was done a couple of years ago by the forestry folks. Danielle Fitzko, I think, was in charge of that. And is that something that with this multimodal guidance, do you think that could get wrapped in? Because it seems like we can have cleaner air with street trees, stormwater, there's a lot of potential opportunities to kind of create the desirable friction that would slow the cars down, but also help with mitigation, and assuming that people will be living in these communities, which is at least my goal.
I hope so. I'm reviewing the draft, which is 300 some odd pages thick, and I just haven't gotten that far into it yet.
Yeah.
But I hope so. My hope is that, yeah, it's gonna, street trees, they look nice, but they
Yeah.
also help with heat island effect.
Yeah.
Slow traffic and there, there's a variety of benefits. And there was initially, I would say some resistance, but I think at the end, there's a lot of acceptance with that as an option. So yeah, I think so, but
Yeah.
let's wait and see what the guidance calls out. But yeah.
That would be great, yeah, thanks for that. I think that would be, very helpful, and also just, we're always talking about our state brand and our appeal and that walkable, historic, fixed up, economically productive main streets are part of that. I mean, that's why they came and shot Beetlejuice again here. But they had to put up a false facade because the store that they were using had deteriorated so much. Why is that? Because our policies that make that investment not easy to do. So anyway, I'm so glad that the two of you are on the advisory committee and
And I think on that point though, the multimodal roadway guidance is gonna do everything. So I think at the end of the day, town plans, regional plans, we need to be more specific. We probably need to say, okay, the village starts here, gateway treatment.
Yeah.
Street trees or whatever. I think we need to do more of that better connections type work and incorporate that better into our town and regional plans to inform the state,
Yep.
know what we want.
to create value that we, tax value that we need and want.
So, okay, yeah. So that's all we had prepared. Happy to answer any other questions, any other issues that you want to ask about.
Well, I'm sorry for the timing of it against the floor. I appreciate your coming in and your presentation and your exchange. We will, what is today, Wednesday? We'll,